Hello, everyone. So thank you all for joining our first official Group BIC Services Sofia webinar. Agile is an attitude, not a technique. My name is Sylvia, and I'm part of GBS Sofia team. And I'm here to give you a brief introduction of what we're going to be talking about today. Just let me see if I can see where that echo is coming from. Can you hear me better now? Okay, perfect. So let's start. Again, thank you everyone for joining. Let's go through some Zoom specifics first before we dive into our agenda for today. So please keep in mind that for the purpose of having no disruptions during this presentation, you will all be muted. If you'd like to ask a question, you can do that at any time by hitting the Q&A button just here. Once clicked, you're going to see this window where you can type your question. And if you'd like your question to be anonymous, remember to tick in the Send Anonymously checkbox right here. We're going to spend our last 10 to 15 minutes of this webinar dedicated to answering your questions. And this is going to be after we deliver our main topics. For those of you watching the stream on Facebook, keep in mind we're monitoring constantly. So if you have a question, just drop it in the chat and we'll answer at the end of the session. So let's dive into our agenda for today. Firstly, we're going to give you a brief introduction of who we are and how we think forward. Then we're going to talk about Agile leadership and how we are applying agility at BIC. We are also going to introduce our newly opened shared services center here in Sofia. And as promised, we will spend some time to answer any questions you may have. These topics will be delivered to you by our VP of Finance, Renaud Lacoste, who's been with BIC since 2006, and he has more than 15 years of experience in finance, and our own GBS Sofia Director, George Manev, who has more than 20 years of experience in the setup and operational management of global business service centers like Sandvik and Coca-Cola East Japan. So now I'm handing over to Renaud, who is going to introduce you to BIC.
Thank you very much, Celia. Happy to be with you in a remote way, of course, but still with you. So good evening, good afternoon, and maybe good morning to all of you. I've got the dedication to start with this introduction of BIC, and I must say the luxury of working at BIC is basically you don't need to introduce BIC. Everybody knows about BIC, but just in case. We're dealing basically with three categories of products: the stationery products, lighters, and shavers. And we're doing it for more than 75 years. It was 75 years anniversary last year. And across the planet, around the planet, everywhere on that little tiny round planet, we are delivering products over the three categories. And this is a big element that we will also remind you during this presentation, because that's part of our DNA. So if we look at the next slide, where we do have a little bit more of granularity of the history, everything started in 1944, where the famous Baron BIC, because that's the way he was called, Marcel BIC, here in Clichy. I'm in the office right now in Clichy. Just on the other side, you cannot see, on the other side of the window, he acquired a factory and started to do the business of stationery. And he had in mind as his vision to put on the shelves of the people and in the hands of the consumers a pen, an affordable bold pen. And with a little bit of testing, he came to something that everybody knows today, the iconic crystal pen. And that has been the very beginning of a story that went afterwards across the full stationery range, up to the lighters, and finally the shavers range. And because he had this vision not only for Clichy, where everything started, not only for France, but also for the rest of the world, he asked a couple of pioneers to go on the market, Brazil, America, Asia, and just represent the brand. And afterwards sell the product, and afterwards manufacturing locally. And that is a success story over 160 countries. Of course, the vision is important. The will is even more important. But you cannot operate and execute that vision if you don't have people to help you doing it. Today, we are counting more than 13,000 people registered on the payroll of BIC across our multiple subsidiaries across the countries. And we've been doing that for 75 years. I said it. We celebrated the anniversary last year. But basically, these 75 years are very, very different from the, let's say, the 75 to come. And this is also something we want to tackle and to discuss. One of the illustrations is the decision to create our first shared service center. Believe it or not, we didn't get one. We didn't have one. So we elected Sofia to start this new journey. And this is all about what we're gonna try to tell you and share with you. Maybe first, on the next slide, Mr. Gates, someone who is kind of iconic and is a visionary. If you followed a little bit, he was announcing COVID-19 6 years ago, in a TEDx presentation. So it's very, very important to follow the visionaries people. And when he described agility, what I like in this quote is a couple of what I call the reword, rethink, reinvigorate, react, reinvent, which means that at the beginning you have a foundation, okay? And from that foundation, you just try to think differently, try to consider the reality differently, embrace a new ways of tackling the constraint, the challenges that you have. And this is agility. And that's why we said it's more an attitude than a real methodology or technique. Of course, and we'll talk about it, there's a methodology. Of course, there's a technique. But if you don't have that spirit that Bill Gates just reinvigorate here, I still use one of these words. If you don't have that as a mindset, you're never gonna be agile. And I think at BIC we are. So maybe if we look at a little bit more in detail, say, yeah, how do we become an organization that is agile? I would kind of even change that question by, how do you make a young, old, 75 years old organization like BIC being agile? And this is the crucial challenge, interesting challenge in which we are. And basically what we've done is going to, from what we were. So in the next slide, we have one of our mantra. So a couple of, like every companies, we have mantras. One of the mantras we have is honor the past. And this is basically the route that we need to have clearly in mind to determine what we are before to be agile. And this is exactly what BIC is doing. We are a manufacturing company. We are delivering product to consumers. We're doing it everywhere on the planet. And we are a family business. When you take these couple of elements as foundation, then you can turn to the next mantra, which is on the next slide, but the same, invent the future. So with your foundation, you can be, with agility, thinking of how you will operate. And in our current environment, it is mainly to talk about operating differently. Do we want to sell the same crystal pen? Of course we want, because this is an iconic, a successful product, but maybe doing it differently, maybe using it differently, maybe having new colors, maybe having new functions attached to the pen. So that's all about what we try to do. And to do so, and that's starting with the next slide, we launched end of 2018, we launched a project called Invent the Future. No secret, we're using our own mantra. To really, it's like an introspection exercise, looking at each of the corners of our company and then decide what is the future for that. So what is the future for the products? What is the future for our processes? What is the future for our relationship with the consumers? And we said, okay, we may have the solution to reinvent what we are without losing what we were by 2022, putting in phases on the effectiveness of what we have to do. Shared Service Center will come after and discuss about it. This is exactly what we call effectiveness, with gathering a lot of activity under the same roof to make it more powerful and more effective. Innovation, I think everybody is clear on that. Everybody agrees. If you don't innovate, you're stuck in the end of the queue. So basically, we want to innovate, but not only on products, not only on what is the new ink that we will use in our pen, but also in a way we process things, data, in a way we are doing the back office work, which is what we will do with the Shared Service Center. Of course, and this is true for every FMCG company, we want to be closer to the customer, but more to the consumers. So the people, the kids at school using our pen, you shaving every morning, some of you smoking on a daily basis. How do we capture what you want? How do we capture what you need? How do we maybe suggest you new needs? This is all about this element, this direction of inventive future. And of course, we don't want to do it only on a single channel. We want to cover multiple channels, starting with the e-commerce, which is very, very important now. Talking about this, if we go to the next slide, there is a methodology, and to do so, I will hand over to George as a professional of Shared Service Center. Pretty sure, George, you came across that methodology. You're more expert to talk about it, right?
First of all, Renaud, thank you for giving this extensive explanation about the background and the history. I want to assure this audience that it's a thrill to work with people like Renaud, many of them here in BIC, with the inspiration they have and also the experience they bring to all of us. So really appreciate it. Now, given the audience, we have made a little check on the types of people that have subscribed, and I see already there are 81 people listening and watching us. Really amazing. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for the interest, guys. But given the type of the audience, we are not here to teach you what is Agile and what is the methodology. We all know that this was invented mainly as an IT methodology in order to bring innovation and speed into the development and implementation of projects. And we follow all this methodology here in BIC as well. We make evaluation of our processes, suggestions for improvements. We are building our process improvement team. We are doing the design together with our customers and clients, and all these principles which are implemented in Agile are followed. However, I'm sure that most of you have certifications in Agile. You know what's Scrum, you know what is sprints, and so on and so forth. This is more to tell you how we understand Agile from a management perspective. And having said that, let's move to the next slide, which is our credo, something that we believe. It's not just a technique. It's not something that we learn into a training process or into the book. It is the attitude, the way we understand Agile in terms of how we build our management style, how we apply our leadership skills, how we want to move forward with this organization. Having said that, let's move on. 4 main topics that I want to bring your attention to. Number one, instead of giving instructions, we believe that it's our common goal to build this service. Having said that, what I mean is we have different roles in this organization. My role is to manage this shared service center, to apply reporting, to sign contracts, and so on and so forth. There are other roles, like Sylvia has the role of being the communications manager. We have roles which are in accounts payable, in accounts receivable, many other areas. However, our goal, our common goal, is to make this successful, and this is how we understand this. This is the mentality, and this is the atmosphere that we wanna build. Facilitating ownership. We believe that each and every person has its own field in this organization, and it's a contributor to the common success. There are no more important or less important roles. A couple of days ago, we have missed to pay one invoice, a critical one, so consequently there was a critical business process which was stopped. Was this good or was this bad? It is bad from business perspective. We should never make this happen again. But on the other side, this is something that indicates how important is a role which makes simple things simple in terms of posting invoices and organizing payments on time. So each and every one of us has its own role, its own ownership in order to make this working in a proper way. Learning fast. We are living in an environment which is volatile. It's not as secured as it used to be 10, 15 years ago. Uncertainty is all over the place. It's surrounding us. When we first started back in February, end of February, we had a very detailed transition plan, which included traveling to Clichy, passing 1 week of onboarding process, site visits, following by 3 weeks of pure knowledge capture and transitioning. However, in the beginning of March, we had the crisis with coronavirus, so all this was about to fail. Many of our peers, other shared services centers, have put projects on hold. They have said once things go back to normal, this is when we will decide how to move on. So we had to react fast, and we made this happening online. And this was not a contribution only from the management, it was a contribution from the entire team. Each and every person had the mindset to be on time in front of the computer, staying at home, being a contributor to the process. And so far, I would say that 2 months after, we are doing our transition on time and on schedule. So a big achievement for the entire team, maybe the first one in the entire history of shared services centers. The last box is not the last in terms of sequence, but most probably it's one of the most important. It's also how we build our culture. And this is our philosophy. When we are making interviews, those of you which will decide to apply for a position with us, bear in mind that we also want to choose people with the same mindset, people which are dedicated, people that are looking forward for a success, and people which want to share the values of our company. Having said that, and this is the last thing I will say on this slide, is the average age of our organization is 34 years old. We know the values, we know what you guys are looking for, and we are trying to apply this in our management. These are only 4 examples which I want to highlight. We want to empower cross-functional teams by granting personal responsibility and accountability. Each and every person will have its own goals and own picture of success within our organization. We encourage our teams to collaborate and learn from each other. We have rented our office. It's 2,200 square meters, all in one plate, all open space, so people can work together, can give ideas to each other, can cooperate between different teams, and contribute to the success of this entire organization. We are not managers that will stay behind the backs of the employees and watching the monitors. Micromanagement is not our style. We don't measure clicks and breaks and number of coffees that you have had during the day. We are managers which will count on results, and also we will not punish people when they make mistakes and they have failures. The important things is the lessons learned and not the mistakes that have been made. And last but not least, something that I already mentioned, it's about the culture. We want an open-minded atmosphere with giving feedback for each and every achievement that we make, and focus on our long-term goals. Now, this is one and the same guy, and which we made this selection on purpose, because we want to say is that it's the attitude. It doesn't matter whether you are tall or fat, or you have different beliefs or religion, whether you're male or female. It's important what kind of attitude you apply in your day-to-day job. I had a friend of mine which one day says, I want to quit and I want to do my own business. I'm going to get self-employed, because I don't want to have a manager. I don't want to follow rules and orders each and every day. And this is not true, because end of the day, no matter if we work in a big corporation, if we are self-employed or a consultant, end of the day we have one and the same manager, and this is our customer or our client. No matter whether this is a internal client or it's an external client, end of the day, this is what we should all aim from. And making a customer happy is not by commanding the team and giving orders and measuring the clicks by controlling each and every employee. It's by creating an atmosphere of collaboration, of encouraging people, stimulating their development. It's also about trust. We want to trust in our people. If we are one shared service center, we trust our employees have our attitude and our motivation to be successful. Enabling, as I said, we want to develop people capabilities. We are working on capability matrix, and we are willing to stimulate, to train people, and to generate value. So having said that, I'm handing over back to Renaud.
I'll try to unmute faster next time. But basically, thank you, George. Basically, we want to create, of course, a successful big shared service center. What does it mean? That means that we need the people, as George mentioned, the agile people, the ones that are not only on the traditional way of working. Of course, we need a bit of that, a bit of everything, basically. But our perspective is to attract the people, to engage them and retain and develop them. Because what we want is basically developing the capability inside the organization. I told you this is the first shared service center. So we are beginners, if I may say that. So we need the people to help us bringing those. And this is what we started already. with employing and started recruiting people that are coming from shared service centers with an idea of how things should be done. But we come and say, let's do it the BIC way. So this is very important to mix the two approaches. Of course, we want to grow. This is the essence and the objective of a company. And to drive that, we have a strategy. So we talked about it. Shared Service Center is part of that. We had these 4 pillars I mentioned on the Invent the Future. And this is basically a strategy which will be successful to grow. And I also wanted, and I will in the next slide also talk about it again. It is very, very important to know where we're going, but it is very, very important to know who we are and from where we're coming from. And in BIC, it's called the philosophy, the values, and core competency. So if we jump to the next slide, you will see that you recognize the mantra or not the past. What we have is big values. So like many big companies, we have values. So you may say, yeah, you put the values on the walls or the entrance of the building, and that's it. Yeah, we do it, basically. We put it on the walls, we put it on the entrance. But I've been in this company for 14 years, and I can tell you each of these values are followed, executed, endorsed. You have a real way of doing business in an ethical manner. So we are trusting the people and we are respecting the people so that they can also deliver what they have to deliver in a compliant way, in a respectful way, not to mention in a legal way, of course. Something very, very important, it's a family business, I mentioned to you. And when you look at, if you have the curiosity of looking at the org chart, the org charts in BIC are very, very short, which means that we're not asking you to be in a box. We're asking you to really be agile and take your responsibility. You need to be responsible for what you're doing. You need to be responsible because this is the way you give value to what you're doing. It's not waiting for someone to tell you what to do. It is to do it in a pure responsibility manner. Teamwork is also something, personally, for 14 years, I've seen it every day. People not only doing their own and leaving the company at the end of the workday, but also try to help, try to federate, do task force for projects, not only counting hours most of the time, and on the goodwill, not like if they were forced to do it. It's real the goodwill. And this teamwork is very, very important. And the two last one are, to be honest, very difficult. And I'm coming from finance. I'm not sure if you share with me, but I'm not sure we can say finance is simple. And most of the time you shouldn't say you're ingenious in finance because that resonates something not a little bit murky. So simplicity, ingenuity anyway, are also values that we try to apply in finance, but in the rest of the group, because our products are simple, we should be the same. Our products are ingenious. The way we do it is really illustrate ingenuity. We should do the same. And this is how we're going to drive the shared service center. We'll have simple processes that we will revisit every time we need to, that we will have to update, and the ingenuity will be for the improvements that will come after implementation of the process. So we'll talk about technology later on this presentation, and this is one of the ingenuity element that we want to raise. If we go to the next slide, you recognize the second mantra: invent the future. And most importantly, and we have representative of HR, I'm pretty sure they're going to be fully aligned with what I'm going to say. We have a value proposition to the employees. So basically, we don't want to be in a classical employer-employee relationship. We really want to give value to what is done, because it has to be value for the company, and it has to motivate the people, the employees, to execute what they have to do, so that it makes a real synergy in delivering success. So work matters. So we will definitely spend time on what is bringing the value and not the rest. We talked about the values earlier, but reinvigorate, re-insisting. I'm getting more and more Bill Gates now. Re-insisting on these values that are the DNAs. And because we are everywhere, because we are manufacturing company that distributes its product, doing a little bit of subsidiary creation, subsidiary direct, indirect distribution, with finance, with legal, we have lots of opportunities. We have lots of opportunities across the planet. And this is also something which is not that big. It's a way to consider your job, your daily, is that it's not, there's no end, there's a beginning, there's a next step, and there could be other next steps. And that is without potential limit. Growth and recognition, it's clear that if we want to have people responsible, we want to have people growing, getting experience, and be recognized for that. And finally, we are very, very conscious we need to be also balanced in a sense that professional and personal life should be together, should be going together. There's one of them should take the lead. So when you're at work, you're at work. When you're at home, basically. We are pushing for many years now where Footprint as a responsible organization with clearly sustainable development as one of the pillars of what matters in BIC. So there are lots of examples of how we act responsibly, starting with our behavior versus the employees, as making sure we're clear when we recruit. And when we have a lot of people in front of in the company, in the shared service center, have been recruited with me being in the panel of interviewers. And I hope they can testify that we are always honest when we recruit. We are always honest when we grow the people. And we are also very honest when you grow, you succeed, but also when you fail. In the sense that failure is something that we accept, and we are honest saying how to move forward. And this is the acting responsible as a responsible company when we talk about that. Next slide. And so main question, and I will turn to George for that question, is why now? Why a shared service center? What's the crazy idea after 75 years of history to create one? Any idea, George? Mute. George, you have to unmute.
Sorry, next time I'll unmute faster. Now, first of all, this picture, which has been taken in the very first days of our opening, this is beginning of March. Now, what I want to emphasize, and Renaud has said it several times, the formation of this shared service center is part of the Invent the Future initiative. So this is a part based on the legacy, on the history, on the experience, but this is something which belongs to the future. And I'll get back to what I said on the next slide. This is something very new for BIC. This is the first shared service center, so this is why we lean on the experience, on the knowledge which all the employees are bringing. There is quite a big diversity within our business service center. So we are looking for people from different areas with different knowledge, and we lean on this going forward. We will be providing services in the areas of finance, of customer support, transactional procurement, and any other activities where we find an opportunity. What is important for us is our vision, our picture of success. First of all, we would like to make this shared service center a lovely place to work. We would like our employees to come to work motivated, with a smile, enthusiasm to deliver. Number two, we would like to build a service which is better than what existed in the past. But also, if we benchmark our services with our peers of the market, we are better, we are cost effective, and this is the way to build this as a center of excellence. Having said that, this is the next slide which I was referring to. BIC has already made the investment of building a big office on the 9th floor. As you can see, pretty good view. We have built it in an innovative way to correspond the values and the culture of a younger generation. So this is already done and it's open. It also has all the prerequisites in terms of hygiene, health, and safety to correspond with the current regulations about coronavirus and everything which is related to the health and safety of our employees. So to repeat, this we want to build a great place to work. And if we go to the next slide, it's all about the people, the processes, and the technology. As I already have mentioned, we managed to deliver the transition in the first 3 months of this shared service center using online technologies. But this goes beyond that. We understand that we want to deliver automation, we want to deliver modern technologies, we want to build this on robotics, RPAs, and this is also in our roadmap. So it's all about the people, which we consider as the main asset. It's not about the computer, it's not about the chairs and the offices, it's about the people, it's about the improved, the modernization of the processes and the use of cutting-edge technologies. So more or less, this was everything from my end, and we have one more slide, which is mainly to make the conclusions.
Yeah, thank you, George. I think this slide is a lot of invitation, and in whether you still view BIC as a writing company, so we would like to say welcome to the right side. But basically, a couple of elements I think it's for me important to mention as we are finishing that presentation. One, it's a strong and solid company, been there for 75 years, shaping the market, and also set in the family as perspective. In a family-owned company has a different culture. The culture is very, very important. And this is something I found when I joined, and I'm still 14 years afterwards finding it very comfortable. When you have a culture, when it's something you share, and you're doing that with great joy every day. It's probably because for 75 years this company has been doing this. Of course, it offers interesting benefits, policy. To be very honest with you, if you join BIC, hopefully it's not only for the benefits, but also for the rest and what we just said, and much more that you may discover afterwards. What we said also, and George just mentioned it, is the innovation and the technologies. We're clearly looking at robotics. We're clearly looking at continuous audit. We're clearly looking at bots, chatbots, and other ways of using the data. So we're not creating an old-fashioned shared service center, but we want already to be jumping into the new area and pioneer on that. The same way we have the feeling that we pioneer with this knowledge capture on the remote side. And of course, I mean, hopefully it's clear after that presentation, but the people are the cornerstone of the company, to bring the vision, to bring the creativity, and to help grow on both sides. Us, the company, but also you, the employee. And finally, I think it works very well. The picture you saw last year in August, I was with the designer designing some of the things I'm seeing now. I'm very proud, and I'm even more prouder than because people going to the office feels very comfortable, feels in an area they can really deliver, and really enjoy being with the colleagues. And so that, yeah, we really create things. So we would love some of you, most of you, all of you, I don't know, to create with us. And basically more than welcome to exchange with you. I think we're heading to the Q&A session now. So feel free to shoot questions. Feel free to, we have also other panelists with us, to not only the two of us, George and myself, but we have other people that can also give their views and vision of what has been existing so far. Sylvia?
So Renaud, we already have a few questions posted in our Q&A section here. So let's have a look through them. So one of them is, what opportunities for innovation and leveraging new technologies, i.e. blockchain, are considered in the short, medium term under the innovation pillar?
Very, very good question. Very interesting question. So leveraging new technologies. Blockchain. Blockchain is an interesting element. Blockchain is probably something we will look at if we stick on blockchain example. I think we have steps to do before. The steps to do before is really to understand correctly what we are transferring, to stabilize what we are transferring. And from that, there are a couple of options that we are already considering. Blockchain by itself is not one of them for the moment. It is really the automation. It is really to go for the RPA. It is really to go for a better way to exchange with the clients, whether internal, but also external. So if we're talking about AP, there's going to be some exchange with the suppliers. So this is also the image of the company that we are conveying. To do that, we are putting all the means and the technology to exactly support that relationship, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's a voice to text possibility, on top of the classical ticketing system. So we're looking at the efficiency of the GBS in that direction for the moment. But blockchain for sure will be on the list very, very soon, but it's not the priority number one. George, I don't know if you had another view on that.
No, I think what I want to add here is, as we have stated, we are open to all kind of ideas, and at the end of the day, if it is an idea that can be justified, it has a business value that can be justified, we will be willing to support. Of course, we have our steering committee, we have people which take the decisions, but we are open to listen to our employees, and if there is an idea of automation which should be implemented, we are willing to support.
Cool. So we have another question about our office location, and I think I can take that one. Our office location is in Bulgaria Mall. It's in the new Tower B building on the 9th floor. So that's on Boulevard Bulgaria, just where the mall is. And Tower B is just on the side across from Villa. So it's on the 9th floor. Another question we have, and this is again a very good one. It says, what is in our definition, what is the difference between a shared service center and a center of excellence? What is the roadmap for achievement?
Maybe I'll start here. As every shared service center, we are starting with the transactional process. And guess which ones are the first? Of course, we start with accounts payable, accounts receivable, classic way of transitioning transactional process. However, going forward, we are also willing to start looking into the more complex processes and those which require decision making. We are far from the end state where all this will be transferred. There is a long way to go before we achieve this. But I truly believe that at a certain point, maybe 2-3 years from now, this will be the place where the knowledge will be allocated. So if something happens in a market, to give you an example, changing currency or changes in VAT, I'm giving examples from finance, this will be the place where the knowledge will be located. This will be the people which know what has to be done in both ways, system-wise, process-wise, in order to deliver such a project. So having said that, in my view, Center of Excellence is where the knowledge is located. This is the place where the legacy is in terms of process and knowledge is allocated.
Yeah, I agree. Just to give another illustration on finance, because I think it's already the case of a center of excellence somehow. We have a department called Reporting Factory, where basically from where we are issuing the reports, finance reports, whether it's on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and you name it, the report. What we try to do and try to say is now, to your point, George, on the knowledge, now we're building the knowledge in technology and the way to handle the data, so that it's no more the standard report that we will shoot every month or every week, or it's getting more the dialogue with the rest of the organization saying, well, I have a new product. Can you help me designing the dashboard that we need to follow? So it's getting more customized, more ad hoc, more into the business, more collaborative. And from that perspective, when you get to that, this is where you are a center of excellence within a shared service center, which is our case. And by the way, we don't call shared service center. We use it because that's the common language. We like to call it GBS because we are providing services for BIC across the world as part of BIC. So within the processes, we part of actors, contributors within the processes we belong to. So AP, AR, general ledgers, whatever. We are part of the full organization and not that organization that are here in Sofia doing transactional activities only. It's much more than this. And for me, that's the first step of getting to a COE within a GBS.
Thank you. Next question is, how do you imagine a successful transition?
I see we have Nadezhda, our quality assurance manager. Maybe we give her the floor to answer this.
Thank you. My name is Nadezhda Petkova. So basically, the successful transition for us is really not only to transfer the services from big entities to big GBS, but also to understand how we can improve the process, how we can make them more easier, more automated, and of course RPA. For me, this is the successful transition, really to understand how to improve the process.
And I guess one thing that is very nice is when you see the people on the other side smiling at you, that means this is success. And then when they really count on you and work in a collaborative way, this is another illustration of success. And so far, this is what we achieved to do in the very specific, you have understood that, very specific context of people being at home with the COVID, no possibility to know the counterpart physically and to have this relationship, which is something very important when you do the transition. We made it differently, but we made it successfully. Smiles everywhere.
Thank you. Next question is, in what timeline are you planning on integrating RPA?
What timeline? Yesterday? No, really, we are already working on that. So exactly, I will not tell you exactly when, but we are designing some of the RPA today because what we've done, which is a smart way, we did it, I think, an agile way. When we drafted, flowcharted the activities in finance, for example, but it's the same in other activities, we not only reproduced on paper or digital paper the essence of the flow, but we also look at the same time where it was weak, where it was duplicated or in duplication, so that so far we already got the roadmap of improvement. And to that roadmap, we said this could be solved by that, including RPA. So we already got good ideas of RPA for multi-source reconciliation for those who are in finance, that normally you extract from multi-system or sources and you put that in an Excel spreadsheet. This is a simple RPA perspective. We got more sophisticated one, but this will come very, very soon.
Just if you allow me to add, Renaud, guys, we don't have any other chance than applying RPA. We have ambitious targets for efficiency improvements. Those of you which decide to apply with us, we will share what our targets are, but they are quite high. So one of the elements, one of the pillars this is based on is RPA. So as Renaud has said, we are already working on it, but we are planning to stress even more on RPAs in order to meet our targets.
Thank you. Next question is, what kind of ERP are you using in BIC, and is it harmonized across all locations? And if not, what are the plans for the future?
Okay, so I'll take this one because this is for the history guy, the dinosaur. So I'm with my 14 years, I'm gonna answer this. So there was a time there were multiple ERPs, very driven by local or regional decision. This is one of the evolution of the group for a couple of years now, and we are using across the geographies GD Edwards. So it's probably not the system you're very familiar with, like SAP or that, but it is something which is in the company for a long time in Europe. It is something which is very important for the continuity and the homogeneity and the comparability from one geography to the other. That's why we said we're going to spread GD Edwards everywhere. So there's no major decision to have new ones, or we're dealing with what we have, which is GD Edwards. More interestingly than this is what we're doing from that GD Edwards. And we have already built a data lake, and not only fed by GD Edwards, but also other systems, internal, externals, This data lake allows us with some requested like Power BI, this is what we're using, to really take the data and play with it and make it the way we want and not be somehow dependent to a system, a format, or a software to do it, but really to be very, very, very creative, be very, very, very agile in the sense of what matters is not the how, it's more the what and why we're doing it. So we want to be supporting the business, and that's exactly where we're going. So to answer again, GD Edwards, but much more attached to GD Edwards with the data lake.
Next question is, what is the importance of language skills for your vacancies? Are you open to recruit people located in places different than Sofia, who may have deeper competencies in specific languages or local legislations?
Do we want to have our HR manager to step in for this one?
Yes, I can try. Thank you, Renaud. Well, actually there are a few questions here, more than one. Yes, we are looking for people with different language skills for some positions and for some specific roles. Specific language skills are important and are key for success. For other roles, English is good enough. But without English, we are an international company, so it will be very difficult to work in this international team. As for other location different than Sofia, currently we are focused on the team here and on building this team and this center here in Sofia. No immediate plans to have fully remote workers, but I would say that this is more probable today than 3 months ago, because you see that the world is changing, and we change and adapt together with it.
Thanks, Ivo. And while you're on the line, there are a few more HR questions that maybe you should address. One of them is, do you have opportunities for HR professionals with focus on processes, development, implementation, and improvement?
Yes, we do, is the short answer. Follow our open positions, our openings, and very soon probably you will see something relevant.
When do you plan to start creating your own HR team in Bulgaria?
We already started, and the team currently supports mostly the growth of the shared service center here. But very soon we'll grow further, and we'll start also supporting our entities outside of Bulgaria. So this is a project which is ongoing currently.
Thank you. And there's a question, how many employees do you plan to recruit for the Bulgarian office in the near future?
The plan which we have is with several steps. If I focus on the first step, to say so, the horizon is next year, and the number is 220. And from there, we'll see, sky's the limit.
Thanks, Ivo. And the next question, I believe this should be for George and Renaud. The question is, how do you scale your program and projects, specifically those of agile nature?
Not sure. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand the question, to be honest. So because there are different elements, a different interpretation that could come with the scaling. Yeah. So I don't know, George, if you have an answer, but
no, I also struggle to understand it. The way I understand it is, of course, we have our steering committee which decides which project to run and when. Sometimes there are projects with priority depending on the business needs. Some of them are scheduled for the future. We have, as far as I know, 4 different stages. You know, one is the prospect, which is projects which will happen somewhere in the future. Then in planning, where you build your business case and form a team and so on. Then you have projects in progress, and of course projects in closing. But I'm not sure this is the answer to that question.
I think there's the precision given by the person, which is dealing with big programs where numbers of teams need to interact and work together. So basically, I mentioned earlier that GBS is part of the full organization. So what we try to do is when there is an initiative worldwide, they would be representative of GBS, because that is the essence where, to what George said, if you want to be a center of excellence, you need the knowledge to be located in the GBS. So the first step is indeed to constitute task force where people would be elected. One of the illustration on that is, as we're doing a very successful transition, our methodology is starting to inspire other business in the group, other ways of managing the project. So we are sharing that. So that's the way we scale, if I may use your word. We scale at the global level, and we have the project to also bring a PMO in the organization, so that this is also very structured, the way we interact with the rest of the organization, the way we prioritize the project, the way we mobilize the resources, and again, the way we want to be is more agile. The same way we did for this transition, that was very, very planned at the second, with this person to be in the chair next to that person on Monday 9:30, and suddenly COVID came and said no more trips. We had everything on plan, and we just said, let's do it differently. And this is the spirit of what we want to really put in place with this PMO help, with the support of the knowledge we developed already in the GBS. Maybe, hopefully, it answers your questions.
Thank you. And the next one is payroll for the shared service center in-house or outsourced?
Probably I should answer that.
I think so.
Yeah, the payroll for the company here in Sofia, for the shared service center, or GBS, as Renaud explained, will be outsourced. And we are selecting as service provider among the best ones, international companies with experience in this industry.
Thank you. And we have a few questions coming from our stream on Facebook as well. One of them is, do you explore options for environmental friendly products?
Of course. I don't know, Renaud, maybe you can tell more about it, but there is an entire initiative in BIC for streamlining environment and initiatives which are running at the moment. Apparently, Silvio, we cannot answer all those questions. My proposal is let's have some answers in writing, because we have exhausted the time already.
Yeah, but just on this one, because this is an important one, and that makes sense a lot in the current situation. We are known as a plastic company, no secret on that. Our products are made of plastic. The difference with maybe others is our plastic can be recycled, and is recycled. Where it comes to a difficulty, it's when you put metal inside the plastic, lighters. But we are doing the job today to look at how we can sort and make sure that we are no more considered as disposable product, because they are not disposable. When you look at the usage length of a product, BIC is something that you can use, provide products that you can use for much more long time, so it's not like disposable. But still, there's a risk that you dispose the plastic in the nature, and this is where we're working on how making the plastic differently, how collecting back some of the products, we can reduce that footprint, that risk. And also we want to go a little bit deeper on that. This is one of the initiatives, many others, and you may also consider some other are confidential, but basically there are many directions that we're following to participate and help our interaction with the environment, of course.
Thank you. Thanks for now. So I think it's probably we can answer the rest of the questions as George suggested in writing. So we're going to get them covered definitely and get back to you. Thank you all for joining. We really hope that you enjoyed this webinar, and it was a pleasure for all of the speakers here to present for you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and we are waiting for you.
Thank you. Have a great evening.